Nick, I join you late Thursday night. In fact, it's almost about to tick over Friday morning for you. Semi-final day wrapped up. I was asked to predict all day who's going to win these two semi-finals, and after much consideration, I thought the two older, wiser heads with a bit more experience might just be able to get the job done. And I thought, well, maybe we might be able to get one of these teenagers into the final, but both. This is extraordinary.
I don't know. It just caps a remarkable US Open, doesn't it? And, having just watched Emma Raducanu come through, I watched her play the Battle of the Brits last year, Brett. As I said to you, she was playing at the National Tennis Centre. She hadn't travelled for about a year.
Yep.
She hit a good ball. All the British coaches told me that she was a very, very hot prospect in terms of the way she played. At the time, she won quite a few matches in that kind of team event. She was very much involved in what was going on there. But she didn't travel, and the parents didn't want her to travel at the time because they didn't feel as though, with COVID and everything else going on, they wanted her to focus on education, which was important for her.
Mm.
And to see what she's just done here this week is absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, the way she took it to Sakkari tonight, I don't think Sakkari looked like she had any answer to what was going on out there. She was being bullied. She was dominated. The depth that Raducanu keeps off the ground just totally suffocated her. And tactically got it so right, didn't she? We talked all the time about Sakkari's big improvements on serve, and yet here she is struggling to get the ball by Raducanu, who's adjusting, squeezing spaces, knowing where the patterns are going, and just playing completely fearless tennis. I mean, this evening's tennis has just been simply remarkable.
I was trying to think, Nick, I haven't had a chance to quickly go through the WTA ratings on the Australian side. I've got a fair idea down the pecking order of our Australians. So I'm trying to contemplate someone at 338 in the world in the middle of the year, now going on this tear. What is it now? 9 of 10 matches. She's won at 2 major events, and she wasn't even really on the world radar in that wild card, which I think her dad had to fight pretty hard to get the wild card for her. I mean, I just can't even contemplate someone coming from that spot in the rankings from an Australian perspective to be where she is. It's mind-blowing.
Well, middle of June, you're right. She wasn't given a wild card. The All England club decided not to give her a wild card initially. Obviously, they have the committee. They have a committee that they talk to the LTA. There's a sort of correspondence there. And they didn't give her one. It was only the week before, I think 2 weeks before Wimbledon, she had a couple of big wins in Nottingham at the Challenger up there. Mm. That then kind of obviously piqued the interest in terms of suggesting it might be a good idea. She then got one. Of course, we know what happened at Wimbledon. But I think the point needs to be made as well that she did come in here in some pretty good form. Making the final of that event in Chicago was a good effort. It may not have been on many people's radars that week because other events were going on. But it still was some good wins that week. She's picked up a fair few wins, and that momentum carried through to qualifying. And obviously coming through in qualies without dropping a set, she's picked up more and more confidence, and she's grown a lot. It's been remarkable, and the maturity with which she carries herself as well is just so impressive.
And in that period too, changed coach, didn't she? From the revered Nigel Sears to I think one of her youth coaches, who obviously is not quite in that bracket from a coaching point of view with that pedigree, but wow, he must be pinching himself as well.
Yeah, Andrew Richardson was a very good player. He was actually Tim Henman's era. He was a good lefty. I believe he got to about 150, but maybe even higher. He coached her for a couple of years. I mean, if we're absolutely honest about it, there's been a lot of changing, Brett, in the coaching department. There've been a lot of chopping and changing. Some felt it was going to disturb her game. A lot of people felt there were too many voices. There was, in fact, I remember one point last summer where she was almost getting confused because 2 coaches were telling her 2 different things. So there have been some bumps in the road in terms of that development side, which in many ways makes this even more impressive. But, she obviously has some stability. I think Andrew Richardson is a very quiet guy. I think that works pretty well. But you're right. Nigel was with her in the summer. Things changed. No one saw this coming, though. No one. Not in British tennis. No one. Yes, the wins kept coming. We knew she was a good player. As I say, that was the word, but no one even dreamt this was possible back home.
No, I love her game. I love the way she plays. You talked about the tactical side tonight, her power, just her style, her presence out on court. It's a nice package. Can it take her all the way to a victory, Nick? That's the the question, Fernandez earlier, what a win against Sabalenka. And you always felt like the game was on Sabalenka's racket, and this is still her hurdle to overcome to try and keep it all together as balls were sort of spraying and a couple of double faults late in the piece, but take nothing away from Layla. She played her game, executed again. She's brilliant to watch. What a final we're set for. I mean, how do you call this one?
Yeah, it's tough to call. I actually sat in the stadium for about a set and a half of the first semi-final, Brett, and the noise for Leylah Fernandez was incredible. The New Yorkers have taken to her personality, as I mentioned before, in such an incredible way. I actually felt a little bit sorry for Sabalenka because you could see she was trying to get them going as well. There was almost a little bit of "Where's my love" scenario, and that was a bit painful. But you have to probably be honest and say Sabalenka crumbled a bit, didn't she, at the end again? There were just a couple of times where you felt the game, we talked about the game where it needs to be a little more layers to the game sometimes, and that just wasn't there, and you could see her bitter disappointment. But Fernandez, I just love the energy she brings. I mean, she's got so much game. She's a proper lefty, isn't she, as well? I was watching tonight, and, she's got a great way of keeping players off balance. She's got a really good lefty serve. It really pushes opponents out of court. She gets good width off the ground as well, so she makes life uncomfortable in terms of balance for players. But she's also got a lot of defensive skills and very hard to push off the baseline. I said to you a couple of days ago, I thought Sabalenka would push her off, but didn't happen. She held the court, she held the baseline, she changes direction. Fascinating final. I think they played once in juniors, didn't they? Junior Wimbledon, I just heard 2015, so I wouldn't read too much into that, but what a final.
As I let you go, it's a throwback, isn't it? I mean, this all goes in cycles. Go back to when Hingis was playing Serena, both in the young final, Capriati winning titles young. It was extraordinary at the time. We're looking at young Martina Hingis going through the emotions of being a teenager and being in the public eye, winning majors, and she peeled off a lot of those before the age of 20. And here we are, some 20, 25 years later, and we're getting the youngsters shining again.
Yeah, and it's good. It's good. It's great for tennis, isn't it? Because as we well know, so much talk coming into the US Open about who wasn't here, how these big players were going to be missed. And let's be honest, we were probably in the same boat. It's hard not to miss what we've had over the last decade with Serena and Roger and Rafa. But actually, maybe in many ways, fans were looking for new heroes and new heroines, and they've found a few this week, haven't they? They're looking for new players to follow, and they've certainly got them. And as I say, with the crowds back here, one thing I've felt just watching courtside is players have engaged with the fans so much more. There's been an engagement, and the New Yorkers, as we know, they're loud, they're passionate, and certainly from Leylah Fernandez's point of view, they've taken to her so hugely, I think.
Yeah, no, she's loved it. They've given her a heap of support, and she's given them some great value back. It's been a great mix. Thanks, Nick. Set for a final we would never have predicted 2 weeks ago, but it should be a beauty. 2 players we're going to see a lot more of in the future, and we get an early taste at such a young age. We're looking forward to that one on Saturday.
Cheers, Brett.